Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unmute, the well-being podcast brought to you by WeCare. All episodes streamed on Spotify and internally via Core and Concentrix University for our game changers.
Hi everyone, my name is Sabrini and welcome to our Wellbeing Podcast, the place where every conversation matters. Today we are joined by Julie Ramirez to start a conversation on digital mindfulness. Julie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, of course. Thank you for having me. Hi everyone, I'm Julie Ramirez and I am a digital marketing manager here at Concentrix. I do digital strategy. But on the side, I'm also a wellness coach and meditation teacher. So I'm very excited to be here talking with you all.
Oh my God, we have an expert today with us.
I
Thank you,
don't know if I'm an
Julie.
expert, but hopefully.
Thank you so much for being here. And Julie, you mentioned being into meditation and being an expert, and I thought to myself, like, do you recall a moment that was the last time you found yourself completely absorbed in a digital distraction and that you have to, put yourself back, consciously put yourself back to be in the present moment? Has this ever happened to you?
Let me think. Like you said, totally immersed in a digital interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. I can imagine, like, I mean, I think different ones, right? I don't have one specific
All right.
example, but I can imagine if I'm busy at work, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a meeting, or sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I've been in back-to-back meetings for hours,
Yes.
and all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I haven't eaten lunch, or oh my God, I
What is
haven't gone to the
happening?
bathroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the most, I would say, common one that probably happens to me.
I
Yeah.
see. I would say mine was when I woke up one day and I was feeling so tired. And it was so odd for me because I had an 8-hour full night's sleep and I was, like should be thriving the morning before. And then when I realized I had a phone notification saying that my screen time was about 4 hours in the same app. And I was like, no way. I was scrolling down endlessly and didn't even notice. So, like, and that was during my free time. I completely resonate with
Right.
what you're saying. We spend, like the day sometimes during work life going to back to back meetings. I have two computers by my side. A lot of tabs that I put on and off. So it's so much information. It's so fast. And I believe that this has an impact in our well-being as well. Do you know if there is any specific challenge or anything that comes with being constantly online?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's interesting you say that, right? Because I think we all now live in this digital age
Mm-hmm.
and it represents both opportunities, right? Good and bad, or opportunities and challenges for mental health. Because
I
I
agree.
think on the good side, right, you have access to resources, to information and people
Mm-hmm.
in a faster way. You can even have access to mental health apps, for example, or
Of
services
course.
online.
Mm-hmm.
Even me being away from my family, most of my family lives in Mexico. I live in the US. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I can talk to them all the time online,
Oh.
right?
Mm-hmm.
However, to your point, I do think that uh, on the other side, right, because we're so now connected to our phones, our
Mm-hmm.
computers, all these digital experiences that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do know that there's research that suggests that excessive screen time and digital multitasking can
Mm-hmm.
disrupt, your sleep, as you were mentioning
Mm-hmm.
before. It can increase stress. It can contribute to feeling isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And social media in particular, I think it's one of those that actually cultivates feeling the comparison, right? You start
Yeah, of
comparing
course.
yourself
Mm-hmm.
to others or your life. So all of this, of course, affects mental health and our
Mm-hmm.
well-being overall. Absolutely.
Right. And I felt the
Yeah.
same like in my, like in my body, but it's something that is pretty common. And I totally agree with you. We have a lot of perks coming from, like being in a digital world, having access to different connections and information. But from the other hand, sometimes can be really difficult for us to be in the present moment. And I know that
Yeah.
mindfulness, it's a term that we hear often, but sometimes we are not fully aware of what
Yeah.
that means. So could you share a little bit of your understanding understanding of mindfulness and how this can relate to the digital interactions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and mindfulness, it's simple, right? It's being fully
Mhm.
present. It's
Awesome.
being aware of this moment. Like right now, you and I are fully present, right? We're not
Hmm.
multitasking. We're not trying to eat while we talk to each other. We're
Hmm.
talking to each other. In fact, let's pause for a second. Let's
Oh,
appreciate, right? You and I are here. Thank you so much for having me. Let's appreciate
thank
this moment.
you.
This is
Yeah.
being mindful right here, right now.
Hmm.
We are present. Um, and again, I think in terms of the connectivity and digital interactions, I think you can have mindful interactions online or
Awesome.
digitally,
Hmm.
but often we don't do that because it's so easy to multitask and do different things at
Hmm.
once.
Hmm.
I think that's a challenge, right? It's really being aware of, I want to be present in whatever it is. If
Hmm.
you're watching a movie, if you're playing a game, if you're texting somebody, whatever it is, you can be mindful by being present and by being aware.
I love that because we are, like trying to understand one side. We are trying to be here. We are trying to enjoy the moment, right? And on the other hand, sometimes it's so easy to get lost while using social media, working and doing all the things that you mentioned. And we are exposed by so many screens every single day. And when we are actually, like having all this impact, there are some common signs that showcase that we might need to take a break. There's that. What is something that we can notice, like right in the hand, like this is happening to me, so I need to take a step back. How do you feel
Oh,
it?
yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's three different ways we can look at it, right?
All
I
right.
think there's signs that are physical. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, in our body, it can show up as eye strain or eye irritation, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
looking at the screen all the time. You can feel tension in your shoulders or your neck or your wrist because you're always like working on your computer or in your phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your wrist hurt. Um, and problem falling asleep or staying asleep sometimes could be a physical manifestation because screen time can affect your
Mm-hmm.
melatonin, right?
Awesome.
But there's also mental signs. So you can feel
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed and tired, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, at work, it could mean that you can start making mistakes or reacting to people's comments or actions in a bad way because you're stressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
With social media, we already kind of touched on it, but you can
Mm-hmm.
feel that FOMO or fear of missing
Mm-hmm.
out, right? Because you're in social media seeing what other people are doing. You can experience body shaming, for example, again, because you're comparing yourself to others.
Mm-hmm.
You can start questioning your self-worth, again, because you're comparing your life with somebody else that's curated in social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last signs I would add are any behavior-wise. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I know people that if they go somewhere and they realize they forgot their phone, they
Mm-hmm.
panic. That is a sign, right? Like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, like people who feel like they need to have their phone all the time,
Yeah.
that is a sign. When you start to work late or extended periods of
Mm-hmm.
time, that could be another sign.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one that I would say, because I observe this when I go out with my husband to eat,
Mm-hmm.
when couples have their phones outside on the table and they leave it on the table when they're that to me is a sign they need a
Mm-hmm.
break from their phones because there's no
Right.
need to have your phone right there. If you're having a face-to-face interaction with your partner, your
Mm-hmm.
friend, your family, whoever, you don't need to
Mm-hmm.
have your phone on the table. Put it
Right.
aside, right? Enjoy the moment.
I really
Yeah.
like that. And something that I not even experienced, but I saw with a lot of my friends and some of coworkers is that sometimes we are trying to hang out. We are trying to maybe, like say like, oh, let's go do this and let's go do that. But we are always scheduling. Like we are on our phones scheduling something. And when we
Right.
get to the time, we get to the point, we are not enjoying that because we are scheduled something else.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, so go to that place where we are not enjoying anything, even the moment, even the future. We are trying to explore the past too, like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. So I agree 100% with you, and I would say that the symptoms, like the signs are pretty, like yellow flags that comes to ourselves to say like, okay, I need
Absolutely.
to take a break, I need to take a step back. And if one of our listeners, I would say, is trying to integrate mindfulness in their digital lives, what practical tips do you think that will be useful for them to do that?
Yeah, so I think this is a great question, right? Going back to you can make your digital interactions mindfully.
Mm-hmm.
So I would start with again having an intentional engagement. So
Awesome.
by that I mean before engaging online, set a clear
Mm-hmm.
purpose, right, for that
Mm-hmm.
interaction, whether that is I want to learn something new, so I'm Googling or looking for something, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
connecting with friends, or I want to contribute by having an intention and having a more purposeful response to somebody, right? Again,
Awesome.
all of that comes back to being mindful and intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Then, similarly, I would say be mindful with your communication, right? So
Mm-hmm.
thinking before typing or texting,
I
reflecting
love
on
that.
the impact of our words and the clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Then this one is a common one, but definitely setting boundaries around screen time, right?
Mm-hmm.
That could mean, hey, while I'm having a meal, either if it's by myself or with somebody, maybe I don't use my phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't wanna watch TV after 9 p.m. or whatever digital detox you wanna do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the last thing I would say it's developing, this is an interesting one, but
Mm-hmm.
developing digital literacy. By that,
Awesome.
I mean
Mm-hmm.
discerning credible information sources, right? Because
Yes.
often, again, this could be because everything's online and all this connectivity and these digital interactions, we
Mm-hmm.
receive information from all over, and sometimes they're not credible sources, right?
Mm-hmm.
So recognizing when a source is not credible, when there are
Mm-hmm.
manipulation tactics,
Mm-hmm.
and developing what I would call like a healthy skepticism
Mm-hmm.
towards digital content, right?
Mm-hmm.
By that I mean not not believing that everything that you read is true. And that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean doubt everybody or be
Yeah.
it mostly means just realize that most content out there it's
Mm-hmm.
subjective, right? Whether that's in social media or even
I
in the
agree.
news, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to tell, okay, what is objective. So just
Mm-hmm.
being mindful of that, as I would say, digital literacy, right?
And I agree completely. We have to be critical about what we are
Hmm.
watching, what we are receiving, what we are letting into our own bodies and
Right.
everything. I remember one time someone mentioned to me, like, oh, I feel like my throat hurts. I Google my symptoms and I feel like I have something absurd. And I was like, wait down. Maybe it's just the
Right.
flu. You don't
Right.
have to maybe believe everything. And then, like we get this whole anxiety and, oh my God, I need to do this, I need to do that, just because we are exposing our situations to a screen. They're giving,
Yes.
like it's giving something that's there, but maybe it's not true. Maybe it's not true for ourselves. So I really like what you mentioned about being critical about everything that you're watching and seeing whatever fits or not into your
Hmm.
reality too. That's amazing. And I would say that during the workplace sometimes can be really challenging for
Yes.
us to set some boundaries to you were mentioning, like being in and out of meetings and sometimes even forgetting to grab some lunch or maybe go to the bathroom. And I would say that this is something that it's more common than I wish it would.
Yeah.
But the idea is to how can we set these boundaries? How during like our work day can we understand what is the moment when we need to take a break?
Absolutely. And I would say in the workplace, there are different ways, right? First of
Mm-hmm,
all, anybody who's a people manager or team lead, right?
mm-hmm,
Definitely encouraging your team members to take breaks, right?
awesome.
And as yourself too, for me, I used to make the mistake of eating lunch at my desk, and that does
Oh,
not allow you to have that mental break, right? So
mm-hmm,
having that encouragement of take your lunchtime and go
mm-hmm,
somewhere else if you can, right? I
mm-hmm,
understand that's not always possible, but if you can, whether you're at home or you're in the office, like just don't eat it at your desk, right? Break
mm-hmm,
from your workspace for the
mm-hmm,
time of your break or your lunch. Um, the other way, or another little tip is encourage disabling notifications that are not essential, right?
I love
Like, I
that.
don't know, I don't know if you see it, like in your computer, I often get like mm, updates, Teams messages, whatever, all these
Right,
different
me
things.
too.
And I realized, oh my God, if I put myself into not disturb, or I even, depending on the computer you have, you can silence notifications. It's
Hmm.
great. And that could be in your phone or your computer, right? And
Hmm.
that help you not get bombarded with all this information.
Awesome.
The other thing would be prioritizing face-to-face interactions when possible. Again, I know some people are work remotely, work from home, so maybe that's not as possible. But
Hmm.
for those who have the possibility to have face-to-face interactions at the office,
Hmm.
definitely encouraging those more.
Awesome.
Um, the other one I would say, this is an interesting one, but establishing clear boundaries of communication after hours,
Hmm.
because, and this is, I remember I had one boss, ooh, I don't know, a few years ago, and he will
Hmm.
tell me, Julie, I have, most of my kids are very young, and honestly, I like checking my email at 11 o'clock at night, 12,
Oh.
midnight, because that's the one time that I have for myself, and I like doing it. However, if you receive emails from me, I don't expect you to respond to them, or in the weekends, right? So that to me was a very clear expectation of, he was telling me, I'm gonna be sending emails, but I try not to, but if I do, I don't expect you to respond, right?
Hmm.
So, and then I have the other way around. I have other colleagues who are very good at saying, after this time, I am not available,
Hmm.
right? Like I log off, I don't check my email, and
Hmm.
that's those are their boundaries, and I respect that, right? So
Hmm.
I think that that is important. Um, I'm gonna give you two more, and that's it. um,
Awesome.
the other tip could be, again, this is more for people who are at the office,
Hmm.
but encouraging laptop-free meetings.
I
So,
love
because
that.
again, right, when we have our computer, or you were saying, you have your phone and you start multitasking, because that's what we do. Oh, I'm gonna take notes, or I'm gonna do this or that. But
Hmm.
instead, what that does is that you're not, either you're listening or you're taking notes, right?
Right. Hmm.
So if you can encourage, as a team lead or manager or whoever, right, having laptop free meetings, I
Hmm.
think that will be helpful, because then everybody's present. It's, you get
Hmm.
more interaction, eye contact. So that would be good. Um, and the last thing, it could be interesting, creating like these digital detox challenges, right,
I really
for
like
your
that.
team members.
Hmm.
And that could include not only all these things that we talked about for work, but it could be also things that people can do at home, like
Hmm.
cultivating new hobbies that are offline, that are,
Hmm.
definitely not digitally related, and things like that. So that could be another fun way to encourage that well-being, and break
Hmm.
in the workspace.
I really like all the examples that you brought to the table, because this just showcase how can we create a culture where, like, we allow the digital space because we cannot avoid it, but how can we use it more intentionally, right?
Yeah.
So I really, really like that. Something that I'm doing for myself and for my team here is trying to get, like this couple days without using the cell phone, not completely, because sometimes we do have to use for emergencies and everything, but
Right.
reducing your screen time to maybe 3 hours a day. Maybe it's enough. If you're a little bit under that, a little bit more, that's okay too. But
Yeah.
being mindful that if I'm using my social media, if I'm using my screen time, then it has to be something that will be as well important to me. Will be something that I'll be using that for a great thing. So I really like that. For individuals, for organizations, you share awesome thoughts. And thank you so much, Julie, for sharing your insights, for bringing your expertise to the table. You are an expert here when we talk about mindfulness. And as we wrap up the conversation, is there any final thoughts or anything you'd like to say to our listeners before we wrap it up?
I would just say, being present in the moment, and being, again, and this could be being present whether you're doing a digital interaction or not, is the
Mhm.
best gift you can give yourself, because you start really realizing, wow, like all the things that you're thinking and how you're feeling, and you get a more better connection with yourself and with others. So
I
for
love
those of
that.
you listening, allow yourself to be present, right? And both online and offline.
I love that. I love that. We are having this moment online, and I couldn't be happier enjoying the moment too. So thank you so much, Julie, for joining us today and for follow us in this journey of getting a feel of a healthy relationship with digital presence. So thank you so much. Until next time, stay present, stay connected with yourselves, and thank you guys. Bye bye. Bye, Julie.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Join us again next week for another episode where we unmute the conversation around mental health.